Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, Fishman here, and welcome to another video. It's time to start doing the plumbing for the next row of tanks that's going to go on the new rack. That's actually the last tank there. It's just waiting to cure before it fits up in its spot. And fortunately, I did remember to alternate the holes, so it should come out looking pretty good. One of the things I'm going to do a little bit differently for this plumbing job is I had some 1.5 to 1/2 inch bushings sitting around. There are threaded ones, but instead of going out and buying the socket fit PVC ones, I'm going to use these ABS ones. They're a lot cheaper. And I'm just going to run a 3/4 inch drill bit through them. Technically, I don't really have to do that, but I want to take a little bit of the thread off just to give me a bit more of a gluing surface. And then all I'm going to do is pare down the piping to fit inside that. And the nice thing, because it's a glue job, it doesn't have to be friction fit or anything. I can just take it off all at once. It only took about maybe 10 seconds to do each one. And once it's all set up like that, I can just swap them out really fast. So as you can see, there's still a little bit of thread there, but this should glue up quite nicely. And you can see the, the pipe doesn't fit through, but once it's pared down, it just snaps in quite nicely. And once it's glued up, that'll be really strong. So that's a good thing. Now the other thing I need to do is, once I've had this on the tank here, I have no idea what happened with this particular frame for this shot. For some reason it came out narrower. Don't know what I did, but the important thing here is how far this is hanging away from the tanks. It's out too far. The obvious problem with that is it's just too easy to hit, and if you bang into it at the right angle, you can put a fair amount of torque on that little hole and end up cracking the tank, and that's obviously a bad thing. So I'm going to put the male fittings on the lathe here and just pare them down to the right size. It's not really critical, I just want to bring it in far enough. And I'm going to do the same thing to the elbows, though the elbows I did on the saw because I didn't want to set up the 4-jaw chuck to line those up properly. Now when you pare down these holes, they have a little bit of a taper to them. So I also had to pare down the pipe as well that fits in it, just so I had enough room for the glue to fit around it. So here it is, it's all set up. I think I might have got a little bit too close, but it turned out okay. I need an inch space between where you see the inside where my thumb is there, and that, so that fits around that pipe when I start plumbing these together. It worked out pretty good. Before I actually attach anything to any of the aquariums, I like to pre-assemble as much as possible. That's why it's all set up like this, so I can do an assembly line process. This is an elbow that's going to go inside the aquarium. I'm going to use it to adjust the water height level in the tanks. And I just wanted to show you how much I took off these ones. About a 1/2 inch, and again about a 1/2 inch also for the male fitting itself. So now it's time to glue this together. I'm going to do a little montage here, or should I fast forward and get these all glued up. I tried a new glue, a new brand I should say. I've always used a medium body PVC glue for these. But I picked up a new one to try out, and I found it a little bit runny. It's funny how much variability there is between one brand and another, and sometimes even like one batch and another batch. But the end result is that it glues, and it actually sets up quite fast, so besides being a little messy, it was fine. So I won't bore you with the whole process here. I'm just going to show you a few of them. And while that's happening, one of my goals here for this is I want to get these tanks up and running, like have water in them and have a filter in them and have them percolating, maybe put a few plants and a couple of small fish, because I want them to at least get a partial cycle going. And so basically by the time I get back, I want them all ready to start doing experiments with and having proper fish stocking and all that sort of stuff. And as I mentioned in the last video, I think it was the last video, the old rack, actually most of the rest of the fish room, I am paring it down as much as possible. My wife's going to be taking care of the tanks for me, and I want to make it as easy for her as possible. So I am putting as much stock as I can out into clients' tanks. Some of them people I've had for like a very long time, and I've explained where I'm going, what I'm doing, and everything, and they're all, hey, no problem. Their tanks are all well established, and it's no big deal to put a few extra things in them. And some of them may end up staying if they really like them, but I don't, like I said, I don't want too much work for my wife to do while I'm away. So it's going to be as few fish in the fish room as I've ever had, I think, for a very long time. So I've done as much as the pre-assembly as possible, and now it's time to dry fit all the parts to the aquariums. This allows me to make sure everything's fitting properly, and also once I have it all set up like this, it gives me a picture in my mind for where to start. I mean, normally like in the third rack down below, I just started one end and went to the other. But while I was setting this up like this, I noticed that the fitting that's closest to the camera and its next door neighbor over are really close together. So I decided that it would be best to start with those two, because there's very little wiggle room between them. I mean, you can't, there's no real tolerances for any kind of errors, so I wanted to do those two first. So I've cut all the horizontal pipes here, and it's all, like I said, friction fitted together. And now I'm going to ease off the fittings, and I'm going to glue these two here first, because, like I said, because the other one has so much pipe between it and the other fitting, it gives me a lot of, like I said, there you go, a lot of ease of being able to fit things together. Whereas these two here, it would just been very difficult to fit them without, possibly having issues. So I'm going to glue these up off camera, and then we're going to put them back into place, silicone the male fittings, and then just screw them in. It's these two here are actually really easy to do, as long as, like I said, as long as it's done in this particular order. So here we go. They're glued, and the silicone's on the fittings there, and it's just a simple matter of just sliding it straight in. Yeah, very easy. Now I just have to screw on the male fittings, the female onto the male fitting, and then just smooth out the silicone. So these three are the ones I'm going to do in this video, and next week, probably on Wednesday, I'll finish up the rest of it. Mostly because the air system for this, I haven't picked a spot where I'm going to permanently mount the pump yet. So I just have the manifold just hanging down, and it was hanging down obviously right in the way where all these fittings are going to go. So I had to adjust where that is. And then this video is getting a little long, so it was just too much to do the whole thing all at once. But I'll get that hooked up next Wednesday, and then it should be all up and running. Now the other one's very easy to do now. It's like I said, that's a lot of wiggle space for that, and it's just a simple matter now of popping this off, gluing it, and putting silicone on the male fitting there and screwing in just like the other two. So here we are, it's all set to go. The only difference is, of course, I have to do the gluing here because it's now mounted to the tank. But it's very easy to fit these in. It's just exactly, at this point here, it's exactly the same as I did for the third rack below there. You just have to watch both ends at the same time, just so that you don't end up messing up the silicone or whatever. And then you just screw in the fitting and it's done. And then, of course, wipe off the excess silicone and wipe off the excess glue. So that's as much of the build as I'm going to do for this part of it. All I want to do now is just show you, this is the manifold I built 20 plus years ago now, I think. And what I want to do here is, it's obviously hanging down. Temporarily what I'm going to do is cut it here in the middle, put on a T-joint, and then just move it up so that it's horizontal, just to get it out of the way of these tanks. And then later on, I'm going to mount that somewhere up above, just so that, like I said, it's just so it's out of the way. And it's always nice to have air pumps above the water line, just so you don't have any water backfeeding into the pump when you have a power failure. That elbow you see down there in the bottom row, that's the final one that goes down to the drain. And I want these tanks here to tie into that one as well, so I'm going to swap that out next week for a T-joint, and then just hook them all together. So that's it pretty much for this video. One more thing I want to show you is the process I'm going through to get this all ready for my wife to take care of, which means all this duckweed and everything has to go away. And unfortunately, it also means I have to take off a lot of the moss and immersed Java fern that I've been growing for quite some time now. That all has to unfortunately come out. I mean, I don't want to, but the duckweed is just all through. You can see it's just everywhere there. And the only way to get rid of it all and to make it easier for my wife to take care of is to clean it out as much as possible. And I found a few interesting things in there that were buried in the back. Grow a lot of plants for clients in these tanks, and sometimes it's just, you don't get to see them very much. And I just thought I'd show a few of them to you. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you like this style of video, please like and or subscribe. And I will see you in the next video, and bye for now.